What is an escalation clause? What Louisville sellers need to understand before accepting an offer. Hi, I'm David Hiddle, your real estate specialist doing business as Shop Kentucky Homes LLC with United Real Estate Louisville. And if you are selling a home in the Louisville area, there's one term you might see in an offer that sounds exciting at first, but can be very misunderstood. And that's called an escalation clause. And while escalation clauses can sometimes help drive your price higher, they can also create confusion, disappointment, or even legal problems if you do not understand how they really work. So in this video, I'm going to explain what an escalation clause actually is, how they work in real life, the pros and cons for the sellers, and what I recommend before accepting one. So let's break it down. So first off, what an escalation clause is. An escalation clause is language in a buyer's offer that says, I'm willing to pay more than my original offer price up to a certain limit if another buyer comes in higher. So for example, a buyer might offer you $300,000 and agree to beat any competing offers by $2,000 up to a maximum price of $325,000. So if another buyer offered $305,000, this buyer automatically escalates to $307,000. On paper, this sounds great for sellers. More competition, higher prices, automatic bidding war. But here's the part most people don't realize. Escalation clauses are not automatic bidding wars. An escalation clause does not mean the price automatically jumps. The seller is still in control of the negotiation, and you are not required to accept the escalated price. You are not required to prove another offer exists unless the contract requires it, which they do here in Louisville. And you are not required to pick the highest number if the terms are not strong. An escalation clause only applies if another competing offer comes in. The clause is written correctly, as it should be here in Louisville, and the seller agrees to accept that offer. So in many cases, escalation clauses are used as a strategy to get your attention, not always as a true commitment to pay the highest price. So what is the big risk that sellers don't anticipate? Well, this is what burns sellers sometimes. So let's say a buyer escalates to $325,000, but the home appraises for only $305,000. Now the buyer may not be willing or able to bring the extra cash to closing. So even though you won the bidding war on paper, you might end up renegotiating the price down later. You might lose the buyer entirely, and you may waste valuable time while your listing sits off the market waiting for a termination. Higher price does not always mean strongest offer. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I have seen sellers make, chasing the highest number without looking at the overall full picture. So what matters more than the escalated price? Well, when I review escalation clauses with my sellers, I look at much more than the top number. I pay close attention to how strong the buyer's financing actually is, how much earnest money they are offering, whether they're waiving or limiting contingencies, how flexible they are with their closing timeline, and whether they can cover an appraisal gap. Because sometimes the best offer is not the one with the highest escalation. It's the one most likely to close cleanly, on time, and without drama. So should sellers even accept escalation clauses? Well, the answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. Escalation clauses can be helpful when you have multiple strong offers, when the market is very competitive, and when buyers are well qualified. But they can also complicate negotiations, create false expectations, and lead to disappointment later. My advice is simple. Never accept an escalation clause without fully understanding how high it can go, how it becomes triggered, and what protections you have if the deal does not appraise. This is one of those areas where a good strategy matters more than just a good price. Selling a home isn't about winning a bidding war. It's about choosing the offer that gives you the highest chance of a smooth, successful closing. So if you are preparing to sell in the Louisville area and you are wondering how to evaluate offers, including escalation clauses, I'm always happy to walk you through your options and help you make the best decision for your situation. I am David Hiddle, your real estate specialist doing business as Shop Kentucky Homes LLC with United Real Estate Louisville, and I will see you in my next video.